Heyo, it is Isaro Senpai here, and today we are doing another What If. And this What If is, what if Natsu had Fire and Iron Dragon Slayer magic? And last time, give me a second, actually, sorry, stupid headphones are being weird and I don't like doing What Ifs without them. But before we get into the what if, I would like to thank Muffin again, because he gave me some info and some stuff that I didn't know about before. And it'll help me a little bit in my what ifs, so thank you. Now, last time where we left off, Natsu just found Wendy, and now after they packed up with a few other guildmates, they're heading off on their journey back to Fairy Tale. As everyone leaves the guild and they're walking down the street, everyone in the vicinity is wondering what is going on, because there's a group of people leaving, including two of the wind users of their home guild. But they don't really question it and just go on with their day. And that's when Natsu and everyone walks and start walking on the road as someone is scheming. And if you guys remember last part, you guys should probably know who this person is, but you'll see in a few here, a little bit. As they're walking, and they're walking, and all of a sudden, about an hour into their trip, I keep calling Wendy Lucy. Wendy starts talking to Natsu, and she's talking back, and they're, having a conversation. As, Lucy, oh my goodness, Wendy looks at Natsu, and she's like, "Hey, Natsu," or Drakon. I don't know, but I used to know someone with color hair of yours, but it didn't have black tips, so I don't think you're that guy, especially since pretty sure he died. Sorry, guys, my thing cut out again. But let's continue. He died, so I don't think it's you. It's definitely not, considering you have black and pink hair. He just had completely pink. And Natsu, he's like, yeah, as Natsu's not thinking that, like before, of how he had all pink hair, but it changed after getting his magic, or at least his iron magic. And he's like, "I'm sorry that my hair reminds you of him." Oh my goodness. "I'm sorry that my hair reminds you of him or her. But I'll get off the topic so I don't bother you with that." As they're walking, one of the men in the guild, one of the guildmates of Wendy, says, "Hey, we should probably set up camp. It's getting nightfall." And Natsu, he's like, "You guys are probably right." As they go into the forest. They go into the forest because it isn't good to camp too close to the road, for the fact that if someone is passing by and they aren't good people, they could try something. So there's less chance to be seen in the forest. As they go into the forest, about 50 feet in, and they find this flat patch of land. So they set up their camp, and they don't have enough tents. They accidentally packed one less tent. I don't know, we'll say two less tents. So people would have to squeeze together in tents, as a bunch of people already took together tents. There's only one tent left, and the only people that had not grabbed a tent yet was Natsu and Wendy, because they were too busy setting up a few torches around so that any animals that would come close, like they would, not torches, sorry, they'd set up traps, like, you know, kind of like in The Walking Dead, how they would put, you know, cans up, and when the, you know, how they ring and everything, you know, like that. So they set stuff up like that, but it's not cans, let's just say it's something random, you know. And after they're done setting the torches and the traps up, they are both about to go grab their own tent, because we'll say that Wendy's actually the only girl in this party, because the other wind mage is a guy along with the guildmates that were sent, because you guys, I'm just doing this for convenience. I ain't doing anything like where I don't like women or anything. I just want to make that clear before anyone, because I know how some people might be about that. I'm just doing this for plot convenience, because you know, you guys have seen a few, and I'll tell you right after. I don't want to spoil anything that's about to happen. But yeah, as they go to go grab a tent, they pick up one of them, Natzu does, and he looks around and he sees no more tents, even though he knows that Wendy doesn't have a tent yet. So he looks over at Wendy and says, Hey Wendy, you didn't grab a tent, did you? And Wendy's like, no, why? As Natsu was like, we have a slight problem. As Wendy's like, what do you mean we have a slight problem? Well, there's only one tent left and all the other tents are occupied, completely full. I think we are missing about 2 or 3 tents. As Egil, one of the guys, like, he came with, walks up to Natsu and says, yeah, you're correct. We accidentally missed about 2 tents. And all the tents are packed full. There's no more room. So, sorry to say, but you two are going to have to share a tent. And Wendy's like, wait, what? As Natsu's like, and this is one of the smaller tents too. It isn't like a 2-person. It's supposed to be a 1-person tent, but it's big enough to fit 2, but just barely. And by the way, there will be no 18+ things here. Just to let you guys know, I ain't doing any 18+ things. Like, if I do, I would just say, they're studying, you know? That's the only thing I'd say. I got that from a YouTuber named XHeather or something like that. Because, you know. So, if they ever were to do anything 18+, I would just say studying. In a weird voice, unless if they're actually just studying, I'd just say it in a regular voice. But yeah, as they set up the tent, and Natsu's like, I'll be right back. I'm gonna run to the forest and grab some firewood. As he runs into the forest, and we're gonna go to Wendy's perspective. As Wendy, she gets in the tent and she's like, oh my goodness, this is so small. As she realizes they also only have 1 blanket, and she's like, are you serious? And she's thinking to herself, oh my goodness, why? As she's blushing madly right now, because she knows that they're going to have to share a tent and a blanket, which does not suit well with her, but she's like, I guess I'll just have to deal with it. Hopefully he isn't some kind of... I'm gonna move the little mic. I don't know if noise has been happening. Sorry if it has. I hope that fixes it if it was. I just have to deal with it. I hope he's not a big pervert or something that's going to try anything. Otherwise, I'll send her to the moon. As she has a determined face. As about 30 minutes later, Natsu arrives back at the camp with some firewood. and places it all around the fire in the middle of the tents, and he lights it with his flame magic. As he walks off and he opens the tent, as he sees Wendy sitting there in the corner, just we'll say that she's reading a book, and Natsu says, "Oh, I thought you'd be sleeping by now." She's like, "No, I decided not to yet because I wanted to see how we were going to completely do this, for the fact that it's not just one tent, we also only have one blanket." Natsu's like, "Oh, you keep the blanket, I'll use one without it. I am a fire dragon slayer after all, so I should be able to keep my body warm enough with my fire by heating it through my body, and I won't be like lighting anything on fire, so yeah." And she's like, "Okay." And they both lay down, and Natsu's the first one to fall asleep, as Natsu and Wendy are sleeping next to each other, as Natsu rolls over just a tiny bit, and his face is right in front of her face, like about 2 inches away, and she's like, "Oh my goodness," as she just rolls around and falls asleep. The next morning, when everyone wakes up, no one has gone to wake up Lucy. Not Lucy, oh my goodness, I am so sorry. No one has gone to wake up Wendy or Natsu yet, as about half an hour later, oh my goodness, Wendy wakes up, and she can't move. She's like, "What the?" As she remembers that she had to share a tent with Natsu, and she looks over and sees that she has crawled into his arms and is now cuddling with him as he is holding her in his arms. She's like, oh my, as she screams and slaps Natsu awake, and Natsu, we're gonna say that when he got slapped, that he went flying against the tent wall because she used a little bit of her magic, and he went outside the tent because, let's say that the zipper came undone, of the tent when he hit. And he's like, "What was that for?" As Wendy gets out and says, "I'm sorry," as she didn't mean that, it was just a reaction. And she helps him up and says, I'm sorry." And Natsu's like, "Okay, but can you tell me why you hit me?" "I'd rather not say," and she runs off to the other side of the camp and to the fire to get some breakfast, because one of their guildmates made breakfast for everyone. And Natsu's like, "That's weird." Whatever. As Wendy's laying there thinking, why? Because she's like, we're gonna say that she has nightmares usually when she sleeps, okay? Just for, more plot convenience, because I want to do this. And she's like, "Why didn't I have my nightmare last night?" And the first thing that pops into her head when she asks that to herself is Natsu, and she's like, no, and shakes it off. She's like, "It's not that." As the day continues, after everyone eats, Natsu gets up and says, "Okay, we gotta start moving again, so everyone pack your things." As they start packing their things, Wendy's about to go pack the tent, and Natsu's like, oh, whoops. Natsu's like, "Hey, Wendy, I got the tent, can you make sure that there aren't any hot coals in the fire, and make sure that doesn't light the forest on fire, considering you do have wind magic?" And she's like, "Yeah, I can do that." She walks over to the campfire and just blows out the remaining coals, as Natsu packs up the tent and they're on their way. And I'm gonna say that also Natsu was given a necklace by the fire dragon, and it had a piece of his scale on it. And now it has a piece of two scales, which is the iron dragon and the fire dragon. As when they're walking, Natsu reaches into his shirt and pulls out the necklace. As Wendy sees this, he's like, are those dragon scales? And she's like, yeah. They're definitely not full sized. I mean, if they're full sized, I'd be like half my body size. As she's like, where did you find those from? Oh, well, I'm not sure exactly about the fire dragon scale, but the iron dragon scale I got from my father, which is the iron dragon, after he died. I took a piece of his scale and put it on the necklace to remember him by. And she's like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. And she bows and says, I'm sorry for bringing it up. My dragon actually left, didn't die, but just left. As Natsu's head starts to hurt a tiny bit, and he's like, ow! As Wendy runs to him, as they're only about like 3 feet apart, and she's like, are you okay, Natsu? Or Dragneel, or not Dragneel, Drakon. And he's like, yeah, just give me a second. Must be more of my memories coming back, or something. Certain words trigger it for some reason. Or sentences, or no. And we're gonna say that he does not know Dragneel, so we're gonna say if someone says Dragneel, that'll bring back the memory of the fire dragon, but no one says Dragneel yet. Because we're gonna say that the last name of the iron dragon was like, we'll call it a... sorry. Give me a second. Let me pause the video. Okay, you guys got to remember this because I'm not going to remember. His last name is actually going to be Igor, which I just took a part of iron and ingot and took them and combined some of the words, some of the letters in the words, and combined it into Igor. So his name is Drakon Igor. Okay, so, oh crap, I forgot where I was just. Oh yeah. As he says that, he's like, well, you know, what happens, so I might get him back, my memories back at some point, considering I do remember a little bit, not much, but I see three figures, they're all blurry though, but nothing more than figures, no regular memories of what, how, or what, or who, or how I met them. But yeah, as they continue walking, and as they're about halfway to Fairy Tale at this point, because they've been walking for about almost 2 days now, about a day and a half, because they walked for about half a day on the first day, then the second day they walked all day till nightfall, and then the third day they're walking and it's almost nighttime again. As they're walking, and they're in a small little town, nothing huge, little colony with like only 8-9 houses. But as they're walking, Natsu tells everyone to stop, and everyone is confused as he says, even though this is a small town, I've been here before there were children, lots of them, probably around 25 at least. And there were a bunch of grown-ups and old people. The old people always sat outside, but right now It's like a ghost town. As Natsu looks around and sees no one until he hears a scream. And he's like, okay, listen, I need you guys to follow me, but when we see the scream, I need you to surround the whole area to make sure if anyone is doing anything to any of these people, that we will capture them and make sure not a single one gets away. As he says this, everyone is surprised about his strategy he just came up with, because they thought he'd just run in there like a flame brain and start destroying things, because that's what Fairy Tail's known for. Even though Natsu may be a flame brain, he isn't that much of a flame brain when it comes to trying to save someone. So as he runs in, he does see, just like he did before, people are tied up and there's a bunch of them, and he's like, not again, as the girl, the water dragon slayer, walks out of a little tent they'd set up, and she says, I knew you'd come back this way, so I decided to go and hunt down some people. These aren't just the people of this town. This is that little boy that you talked to and told him that it'd be alright. You know, this one, as she touches the shoulder of one of the boys and pushes him to the ground. As Natsu's like, don't you touch him! And he's about to run forward, and she's like, one step and he dies. As she makes a water spike and points it toward him. And Natsu, he can't move, because if he does, the kid will die. As she signals to one of her men to go over there, and the man does it gladly, as the woman says, well, if you decide to try to fight this guy about what he's about to do, then I'll slaughter 5 people here, and I'll make sure they're young ones. That means they'll have short and, well, sad lives, as you could say. As the man walks over, and he pulls out a club and hits Natsu with it, as some of the guildmates of Natsu, one of his comrades, are about to run out, as Egil grabs them and says, don't, as he signals to everyone to do not move. And they're all wondering why, but they all know it must be for a good reason. The only people that know why are Egil, the person that Egil stopped, and Wendy. Their thoughts are, if we move out there right now and try anything, they will kill some of those people. As Natsu, he's getting hit by a club over and over and over. He is blocking and making his skin really hard so that he's not taking too much damage. But he knows he can't harden his skin all the way, otherwise they'll notice that he's using it, so he only hardens it a little bit. As this is happening, the woman is laughing maniacally. So, this is so great. Getting to watch you getting beaten by a club. Not able to do anything. As the people on the outside know they have to do something to help Natsu. As one of the people walk up to Wendy and say, I can do something about this. As Wendy looks at him and says, what do you mean you can do something about it? What can you do? As he's like, like you probably already know, I have invisibility magic. I can sneak up and try to knock out the woman. If I knock out the woman, then the woman can't hurt the children, and Natsu will be able to fight. As Wendy looks at Egil and says, do you think it's a valid plan? As Egil says, well, it's our best choice right now. Well, we'll say that the guy's name is we'll say it's, oh my goodness, I'm trying to think of a name. We'll name him Piru. Okay, we'll name him Piru. I'm not gonna remember that, but I don't have to because he's just gonna be here for a split sec here. As Piru says, yeah, okay. As he turns invisible and starts sneaking over, because even though he's invisible, he can still be sensed if he lets his magic out too much. Because he has to condense his magic down and make sure that none of it leaks out as he's using his spell. Which is hard to do, but he's trained to do that considering he's trained in stealth. As he sneaks over, he pulls out a paralyzing liquid potion, basically. As he's like, I should probably use this instead. If I were to hit her and she doesn't get knocked out, it could turn into a catastrophe. But one splash of this and she's paralyzed for a little while. As he takes it and splatters it all over her. As she's like, what? As he turns back into his normal state, so he's not invisible anymore. As Natsu sees this, as the water dragon slayer collapses to her knees and then onto her face, Natsu's like, looks like my teammates, comrades helped a lot. As he's like, now it's time for you to pay. As he hits the guy with a iron fist and sends him flying into the woods about 30 feet in. And after that, he walks over to the people and starts untying them as his guildmates are keeping the other people occupied. As he says, everyone head back to the village. As the boy that was captured, that Natsu told before that it was going to be okay and that he should join Fairy Tail one day, was there. And Natsu noticed this and he's like, hey, so where's your parents? As he starts cheering up and he says, they as he starts cheering up more and more, it just starts crying, and Natsu's like, oh, I see. As Natsu knows exactly what they did. They killed his parents. As Natsu picks the boy up and says, don't worry, I'll bring you with me to my guild. As Natsu's angry now, he walks over to Wendy, as Wendy is actually standing back providing support. As he hands the boy to Wendy and says, Wendy, take him. As Wendy looks up and says, is about to ask why, but then just takes the boy out of fear for the fact that Natsu's eyes have pure anger and rage in them. As he walks past all of his guildmates and tells them to stop. As they do, and they're like, but why? There's still more of them left. As Natsu, he's like, I gotta let out some stress. As he starts encasing himself in gray fire, and he's like, listen, I'm about to beat you all to a pulp. As he starts punching and sending fire at every single one of them, burning them and knocking them out. As after he's done, he feels better. As he ties up all the people, since he does not kill anyone as he knows is wrong. The only people he might be willing to kill are the people that killed his iron dragon, his father. As Natsu, after tying them up, gets approached by Wendy, and Wendy's like, what happened and what's the deal with this boy? I thought he'd head back to the village with everyone else. The boy, this is the first time I faced these people. They attacked me once. They were holding a bunch of people hostage on my way here, and I took them out, but apparently they found some more people, and that boy was one of the people from last time. Except this time his parents aren't here. And I think you know exactly what that means. As Wendy gets a shocked look on her face, and she says, "You mean they were killed?" "Yes, that's exactly what I mean." As she says, "What are we gonna do with him? He doesn't have anywhere to stay now." "Well, I'll bring him back to the guild. And I'm gonna let out my voice. Natsu does not have that deep of a voice. Well, I'll bring him back to the guild, and I'll train him to be a guild member of Fairy Tale." As Wendy's like, "Okay," as she hands the boy to him. And Natsu, he looks at everyone and says, "It's about nightfall, so set up camp," as they do the same thing as they did last time. They set up camp, and Wendy and Natsu end up sleeping in the same tent again. The boy does not end up sleeping in that tent, as we'll say they sent a person to go and get some help and get these people arrested. No, say they sent a bunch of people. Say they sent like 4 people, but they had more reason than just getting the police for this. One of the tents were ruined, and they didn't want anyone to sleep outside, so they had someone go get the police and just stay somewhere else. As the boy now is sleeping in a different tent with some of the other guildmates, because there's a little bit room. As now Wendy and Natsu are sleeping together again. As they go to sleep, as Natsu wakes up first this time, and they are in the same position they were when Wendy woke up. Natsu was cradling Wendy in his arms, and Wendy is snuggled up against his chest, and he's like, "Oh, so this is why she hit me yesterday." As he slowly gets up to make sure he doesn't wake her, because he does not want slapped again. As he gets up and covers her with a blanket and leaves, because the blanket was over both of them, because they ended up, getting really close during the night. Not like close by any means. I mean, close by. They ended up just rolling toward each other, as they were sleeping. And after Wendy wakes up, they eat breakfast and pack their stuff as they're on their way. Except this time they have the boy, and the boy is sleeping still, but is sleeping on Natsu's back as they're walking. And about 3 days later, they arrive at Fairy Tale. And as Natsu and the rest of that guild walk into Fairy Tale, Makarov is there, and he's like, "You finally arrived." As he jumps down and says, "Natsu, were you able to get the Wind Dragon Slayer?" And he's like, "Yeah, I was able to. I was also able to pick up another Wind Mage, and we have some more people here that the master of that guild wanted to send with me to make sure that we didn't try anything against his Wind Dragon Slayer." As they all introduce themselves, and they get informed of what's going on, as a bunch of them are shocked. All of them but Wendy and Natsu, as they already know. And some of the guildmates of Fairy Tale are still shocked because they didn't know this. As they all start preparing, after a few more people arrive, they now have 20 wind magic people. The strongest being a guy named, we'll say for this, since it's a crisis, they brought out the wind guy that Natsu took down. So they bring him out of jail and say that if you help us with this, your sentence in jail will be shortened. As he's like, I'll help you, but you better keep your promise to shorten my sentence afterwards. And they're like, yeah, we will, don't worry. As he's there, and he's the strongest out of all of them, because let's say he was training in jail all this time, and he's gotten really buff, and with the buffness he's also able to use his magic better, because he has more stamina, and he can push himself further. So, as they're all there, everyone starts to get ready, and they're all ready to go and find this flute again and try to stop it before it's released. They're hoping to not have to use all the wind mages to take down the giant. They're hoping just to get the flute and return it to where it's supposed to be, on safeguard. As they leave the guild, a bunch of them, the master does not go because he doesn't have time right now, because he has a meeting to attend. As they go to attend the meeting, and the rest of the team is being led by Urza, and they're looking around. They split up into teams, 5 teams, and we'll say that the first team is going to be Urza, Gray, Lucy, and oh, by the way, sorry if I haven't been putting Happy into this. He's actually there. I just keep forgetting to have him talk. I'll try to fit him in here more. So that's the first team, with a few extra people, you know, just the extras. As the second team will be the wind user that Natsu took down, and a few other extras. And Egil will also be on that team as well. No, Egil will be on Natsu's team. As the third team that has been assembled has the least number of people, which is Natsu, Wendy, Happy, Egil, and 2 other extras that were there. And those people are wind users. As they wander off, and they're looking everywhere, trying to see if they can find info on this flute. As at some point they run across this town, and they're just walking through, asking people if they've seen a flute or any sketchy people around. But they describe the flute, so it's not just, they won't just say, oh, there's a store over there that sells flutes. They'll be looking for a certain flute, you know. As they're looking, a commotion starts up, and Natsu hears this as he runs over to the main place, as he thinks that he might have just found the flute and what's going on, and they're trying to summon it. But what he sees when he turns the corner is 2 wizards just duking it out, fighting in the middle of the town. And these are actually bad wizards. They are actually literally trying to kill each other, and they don't care about their surroundings, meaning that one wrong move and they're gonna kill one of the citizens. As a blast of, let's say ice goes flying towards one of the citizens, and it's about to hit them, as Natsu jumps in the way and hardens his skin as hard as he can, and covers himself in gray fire, taking the hit of the ice. Luckily it wasn't too bad, because the fire was melting a lot of the ice, and the iron on his body protected him from any damage. As he gets up, after he did fall a little bit, because it was still force that pushed him a little bit, and he got up, walks over to the 2 mages, and uses metal binding, and binds them. And he's like, are you too stupid? We won't say they're bad guild people, we'll just say they're random guild people, and they were just fighting because they were mad at each other. And Natsu's like, you could have killed someone here. If I wasn't here, someone would have died. And they're like, what do you mean? As Natsu points over to the giant ice that is still there, it's not as much as there would be if Natsu wasn't there. He's like, right there, if I wouldn't have stepped in the way and blocked the ice, it would have hit those children over there with that mother and father, that family. Think about what would have happened. What if the mother and father would have just died there and the kids were left alone? Huh? As the guy's like, sorry. Sorry doesn't cut it. Listen, just please don't do that again. You could have just killed someone. If I ever find out you two did do anything like this again, and fight each other, or anyone else, unless it's someone that is evil and almost killed someone, I will deal with you personally. As in this one, Natsu is a little bit mad when someone almost kills someone, especially if it's almost a whole family, considering the fact that he lost his family, and if one of them survived, he would know how they would feel. And he walks off as Wendy is surprised that Natsu was so mean because of that. But she's like, unless he's past or something. She doesn't question it and just continues walking with him along with Happy, and Happy's like, aye, sir, what was that about? Or he's like, sir, what was that about? I gotta do a Happy voice. Sir, what was that about? Sir, 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 sir. That sounded like some kind of accent that some kind of fancy dude would use. Sir, no, sir, 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 sir. Aye, sir. Aye, sir. Aye, sir. I have to use that voice. I can't get anything closer. Hey, sir, what was that about? You were really angry. As Natsu's like, well, people like that, they almost killed a family of people. They're lucky I was in a better mood today, otherwise I probably would have beat them to a pulp. Then again, I probably shouldn't, because then I'd probably destroy some of the city myself. I have no room to talk, but still. They should be more careful, because I usually only mess with the city when I'm fighting actual enemies, not comrades, as he has a disgusted look on his face. And Wendy notices this, and she's like, hey, Natsu? Or Drakon? Are you okay? And she's like, yeah, I'm fine. And by the way, I'm gonna say that this isn't gonna come into play yet, but I've decided that Natsu will actually have a bracelet that Wendy made for him. And Wendy still has the other bracelet, and that'll come into play later in the series, like 2 or 3 episodes, 1 or 2, 3 more episodes away. But I'm gonna end it right there. I hope that wasn't boring. I mean, I kind of just did some stuff to take up some time, you know, but I also did it because of the boy. I wanted to have the boy join Fairy Tail as soon as possible, and have not Wendy, have Natsu as like a guardian figure, like a parent figure to him, you know. But yeah, I'm going to actually say something at the end of this, but don't worry about it. It's something to me, because I'm gonna I always go to the end of my videos and listen to it, so I remember where I left off. But yeah, so I will see you guys next video. I hope you guys stay safe, have enjoyed, and are with your families and loved ones. Peace out. Bye, as I'm going to say. Remington, Isro, remember she had